Hey guys, Karibo Bros here, and today I'm coming at you with a Magnet Warrior deck profile for Speedle. Right, initially I did write this deck off as being absolutely awful, but then I did see on the Facebook Speedle Gotta Go Fast page that this deck was top in tournaments. Now I don't know how many people were in the tournaments, but people were at least playing the deck, and it was there. So I thought, right, I'll have a look at it. I'll put the deck together. I'll test it out and just see what I think of it. So the deck is it's not the best. It's not awful. It's not as bad as I thought it was, and it can be quite controlly. And I think the field spell is the reason behind that. So we'll get into the deck profile and I'll explain the cards. But yeah, the deck's not as bad as I initially thought. So we'll look at the skill card, Magnet Attraction. So this is sort of like a Rota and a Foolish Burial. Sorry, no, a double Rota rather. First effect, when a level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior is normal summoned, you can add one level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior with a different name from your deck to your hand. You can reveal 2 level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monsters with different names from your hand, and if you do, you can add one Valkyria, the Magnet Warrior, from your deck to your hand. You can only use each of these skills once per duel. Now, I don't think this necessarily needed to be once per duel. I mean, adding the Valkyrion's nice. It's obviously the one gone into the deck, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think adding Magnet Warriors from deck to hand would have broke this skill anymore. But that's the skill card we play. Move on to the main deck. Obviously, we play the one copy of Valkyrie and the Magnet Warrior. So, cannot be normal summoned. The set must be first special summoned from your hand by attributing one alpha, one beta, and one gamma the Magnet Warrior from your hand or field. See, me being an idiot, thought they all had to be on the field when I was playing the deck against XYZ in an earlier video. So yeah, you can tribute them from the hand, which is really good. So hand or field. So yeah, you can actually get this out, and it's 3,500. And even if your opponent Book of Moons this, it's got 3,850 defense. And its other effect is you can tribute this, and you can target one alpha, one beta, and one gamma the Magnet Warrior in your graveyard, and you can special summon them. So it's possibly a way to push the game, but yeah, as I say, the deck's not as bad as I thought. So one Valkyrie on the one Garnet to the deck that we never want to draw into. 3 of the best card in the deck, Delta, the Magnet Warrior. So we'll just read over Delta. If this card is normal summoned, you can send one level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monster from your deck to the graveyard. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish 3 level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monsters from your graveyard except this card. Special summon one Valkyria, the Magnet Warrior, from your hand or deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. You can only use each effect of Delta, the Magnet Warrior, once per turn. So this card and this deck these cards initially came out with like when ABC came out in normal Yu-Gi-Oh. So there was like the ABC structure deck was paired with this, the Magnet Warrior structure deck, and at the time the ABC deck was just so much better. And I mean, like, so much better. So no one actually paid attention to this deck, and it's why I thought initially the deck was just absolutely awful. But this is obviously with the skill, it's a Rota, and it's a Foolish Burial on summon. And obviously we have the ability to banish Magnet Warriors from the graveyard to summon Valkyrion. So 1600, so it's not the worst attack stats either. Moving on, we play 3 copies of Beta the Magnet Warrior. Why do we play 3 copies of Beta the Magnet Warrior? Well, Beta the Magnet Warrior is simply a 1700 beat stick. It's a 1700 threat. So on normal summon, our opponent may even Book of Minute. Well, they're more than likely gonna use it in the battle phase, but it can out their resource, and we can then tribute it if it's in the hand and or field to summon Valkyrie and the Great Magnet Warrior, whatever it's called. Then we play 1 copy each of Gamma and Alpha. That is literally just so we can summon Valkyrion. If we didn't have to play these two cards, we wouldn't, but we have to just to summon the big one. Now, arguably what I think is the best card in the deck, Magnet Field. So this is the field spell, obviously. If you control a level 4 or lower Earth monster, you can target one level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monster in your graveyard, special summon it. You can only use this effect of Magnet Field once per turn. Once per turn at the end of the damage step, when an Earth Rock monster you control battled an opponent's monster, but the opponent's monster was not destroyed by battle, you can tear that opponent's monster's hand. So this is really cool against like XYZ and even stuff like what's it called, Relinquished, or even if people it's still playing Moth Turbo. This is really cool. So they're decks that will summon like their boss monster, and will usually just only have their boss monster on field. And when they attack one of our monsters, well, they have to think about when they're going to attack our monster, because we're going to bounce back their big boy. So Magnet Field magnetic field is, I think, what makes this deck playable. The fact that it's very controlling and makes your opponent think what they're going to do. Next up, we play 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone because, as I say, XYZ is very popular at the moment, and if we Cosmic Cyclone our opponent's our opponent's Union Hanger, they're not going to get the Ard and they're not going to get the Equip. So it automatically deals with that. You can also use it if we preemptively if we think our opponent's got a Book of Moon, so they can't use it against us, or they'll have to, or if we activate this, they'll have to activate Book of Moon in response and maybe target something that they didn't really want to use the Book of Moon on. Carrying on, 2 copies of our own Book of Moon. It's arguably the best card of the format, so we're going to play it. Actually, these are not Speed Duel versions, I've just realised. So my Speed Duel versions will be in another deck box somewhere in this room. But yeah, 2 Book of Moon. Lastly, 1 copy of Shrink. I was debating whether to play the other version of this card, the one that came in Half Shot, the one that came in like the first booster set. The problem with Half Shot is obviously you can half the attack of an opponent's monster, so they will take battle damage, but that monster doesn't get destroyed. And obviously Shrink, we can just use it to half our opponent's monster's attack, so it will get destroyed. So 1 copy of Shrink. This card's like the most one that I'm iffy on in the deck. It could easily be swapped out for something else. Onto the traps. We play 3 copies of Metaverse because I think it is so important to get to Magnet Field. Obviously, this card's limited to 1 in the TCG, so having 3 of it in Speed Duel is great. And I think if we do ever get a limited list in Speed Duel, this will probably be one of the first cards to go. And 2 copies of Widespread Ruin. People who are familiar with Duel Links might recognise this card. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy 1 attack position monster your opponent controls with the highest attack. If it's a tie, you get to choose. So it's just, oh, you have a big boy and you're attacking, well, I'm going to out it with my trap card. As I say, the deck, it's very control based, so we're going to be in this format, as I say, especially with decks that have stuff like in a conflict as their skill. More often than not, your opponent's only going to have 1 monster on the board at a time, so being able to deal with 1 monster at a time with cards such as Book of Moon or Widespread Ruin is very cool and helps just with the control aspect of this deck. Moving on to the extra deck. Well, actually, no, we'll go on to the side deck first so I can explain the extra deck. So that is the 20 card main deck. Onto the side deck, we play 1 Nobleman of Crosshair because I have seen deck lists that still play stuff like Magician's Apprentice and use that as an engine to go into like Crystal Seer. 2 copies of Hammershot because, as I say, this format, more often than not, our opponent's going to have 1 big monster on the board, and this just destroys the 1 attack position monster on our opponent's field with the highest attack. Again, if it's a tie, we get to choose. 2 copies of Magic Drain. I think like this is really cool. If we're going first, we can side this in, and if our opponent wants to use a Book of Moon, we can activate this. Then they've either got to ditch another card out there, well, another spell card out their hand to actually to let Book of Moon resolve. Otherwise, we negate it. So at the worst, we make them go -1, and our card gets Book of Mooned, or we or our monster just gets Book of Mooned in the first place. So it's a 1-for-1, but it can be a 2. It can be a 2-for-1. And the last copy, the last card in the side deck is Waking the Dragon. Now, obviously, Cosmic Cyclone is going to be very popular in this game, with it being in the Battle City deck. Waking the Dragon doesn't have to be destroyed; it can be banished. So, if this set card in its owner's control has left the field because of an opponent's effect and is now in the graveyard or banished, you can special summon 1 monster from the extra deck. Sorry, from the deck or extra deck. So, if we set this, when we sideboard, if we set this and our opponent thinks it's the Book of Moon, they want it out to say a Cosmic Cyclone or a Break of the Magical Warrior, we can just get a free big body. So I think that's going to come up more often than it has thus far. And as I say, I've not actually seen that in many people's side decks, but I think it's something that should be played. Onto the extra deck, it's just sort of a flex deck. We have the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. This is the card we're going to summon off the Waking the Dragon. And then just some other placeholders. Could summon Ryu Senshi. It could come up, but more often than not, you're going to summon the big 4/5 beta. And then just 3 copies of Thousand Eyes Restrict. So that's the deck profile. As I say, it's the deck's... I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's awful, and I think it's quite fun to play, actually. I mean, summoning Valkyrion, it's just one of those things everyone wanted to do as a kid, isn't it? Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.